Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about big shifts in our practice, that is. This week's topic comes from our very own Danny. Thank you for this week's topic, Danny. So this week we're talking about big shifts in our practice, and there are a few different ways that I could approach this topic. The first thing, is to ask the question, what the heck is a shift? What does this mean? And this is not a term that really came into my use until a couple years ago, and I have Charlie to thank for that. Charlie used to be on the channel and is still a good friend of mine via the internet, and it was really when Charlie started talking about the word shift that I sort of started noticing people using the term and kind of realizing what it meant for me. And what a shift is for me in my path is when something changes. You go not necessarily from point A to point B, it could be C, it could be Z, but something changes. There is some shift being made. Could be a way of thinking, could be a way you practice. The reason that I really started thinking of this recently is that, for the decade or so-ish that I've been practicing, there was kind of like when I started practicing and there's all this stuff and there's just, things that I would do. I would study, I would read, I would learn things, I would practice, I just did all these things. But it was pretty much the same. I was just kind of coming into my own. I was learning things to begin with. I was figuring out what it all meant to me. And nothing in here is something that I acknowledged at the time as a shift. It was just all stuff, all the way up until I graduated college, undergrad, in 2012. After that point, I started reading some different authors, reading different books, and I was getting interested in and involved in the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft and reading some books by Starhawk. I was looking into things like initiation in those other traditions and what that means, and I was challenging myself. I was going through challenges that I had asked people for or imposed upon myself, and that has really led me to this whole big thing, which for me is mostly about listening. Listening is very important. This is a non-anatomically correct ear. Listening is very important to what I see in my path as my shifts. Listening to messages from the universe. Universe, the big U. Messages from the universe. And those I talked about a little bit more in depth in a blog post that I did at the beginning of this year. I talked about my shifts from last year and my intention for this year, 2016. So I'll put a link to the blog in the description. There might be an annotation on the video, I'm not sure. And I also did a video on my channel called Universal Shift, which is when I kind of went through this thing where I noticed that other people were posting online about feeling the same thing. And this is when I started to realize that, all of us, all around the world, we're kind of together in this endeavor. That's everybody holding hands. See? Aren't my art skills great? So I posted this video. This is a video on my channel that you can check out. And so that's really when shifts started being a thing that I noticed. And there were 3 that I talked about in the blog, and there was also one permeating throughout that I talk about in the blog as well, so you can check that out. It's really hard for me to say which one I think is the biggest, because it was just kind of when the first one came out of all of this, I had the first one, which was, they were all about truth. The first one was speaking my truth, the next one was about being my truth, and being my true self. It was all about truth. That was the big thing. So I would say that was the biggest one because it's the first one I noticed. It was hey, there's a thing going on. This is what a shift means to you. And you're never going to be able to forget it because it's going to keep happening forever and ever and ever. And oh my God, isn't this great? It's amazing, magical, and sparkly. So I would consider that the big one. But also I feel everyone since then, everything that has kind of spiraled out of that every one of these other little things I'm going through, these little challenges and other little shifts, they've all been not like this doodle. They have not been diminishing. They've all been fairly equal in size, continuously. That was just for artistry's sake. So I don't feel like I can pick which one has been the biggest. They've all been big to me. And the one that I'm going through right now kind of has to do with, so I also talked about my intention for this year in that blog. So my intention for 2016, which was love. Love. And what I've been noticing working through love and working toward love is that this is the goal and this is what I'm striving for and everything like that. And in the process of working toward love, what's really been coming up is fear. And they kind of go hand in hand, I'm learning. That in the process of living love, a lot of blockages come up. A lot of things that I'm afraid of, a lot of things that society is afraid of, a lot of things that my friends and family are afraid of, or things that I think they will be afraid of. And there's just a lot of, as I'm seeking to live my intention, oh, I smudged my ink. As I'm seeking to live this intention, there's a lot of blockages coming up. There's a lot of walls that I'm kind of working through. So love is my intention, and fear has been my big challenge. This feels huge to me right now because it's what I'm working through right now. But I also think this whole truth thing is also huge. And just the idea of shifts in general is huge. So it's hard for me to say what's the biggest, but I'll definitely say, like I started watching Rich's video today before I redid this. I did this video once and then I had to redo it. Rich was talking about just embracing the goddess in his path being a big shift for him. And that, even that right there told me, oh my gosh, see, like before, in all of this time back here, like between whenever it was that I started studying and practicing and then 2012 when I really like dove in and got really involved in my practice and had all of these dramatic changes happen and continue to happen. If you had asked me this question, Danny, back in this time, there may have been things going on, like somewhere in here, like I would say right before the end, is kind of when I was able to more start embracing the God archetype again. Like when I started, it was very much about the goddess, and I wanted balance and I wanted both, but you need time to kind of go through different things before you can reach different points. So there's definitely stuff like that that went on that maybe now I could look back on and say, oh, that was kind of a shift, and there was kind of a little shift here and stuff like that, but none of that did I consider a shift because I wasn't primed to think of it in that way. And even looking back on it, this was all so like basic to me that it was still just figuring stuff out, figuring out this new path. And I did that for a long time. So I'm sure there are things like that, but for me, my shifts have been big things. They've been challenges. They've been things that have not occurred to me before that the universe is really telling me to listen to and challenging me to listen to. And so far, it's been truth, it's been love, it's been dealing with fear, it's been working in a new tradition, it's been a lot of changes, a lot of fun. It's been fun, it's exciting, it's challenging, it's kind of nerve-wracking at times, it's overwhelming. My God, is it overwhelming? I've been dealing with a lot of really difficult stuff lately, and it all has to do with this. Shifts are, to me, they're all huge. They're like life-changing things. They're total flip-flops of everything. And yeah, I would say that that's how they've been playing a role in my practice. Please do check out my blog. I linked it in the description for you. I'll also link the Universal Shift video if you haven't seen it. And I can't wait to hear what everyone else this week has to say about shifts in their practice, because it's kind of a cool thing. And thank you, Danny, for suggesting this topic. And thank you all for watching. And I'll see you next week. I can't believe it's March already. This is the 1st of March, 2016. And until next time, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.